Okay, I made some changes. And I also made some coffee. Let's dive right in. What I did was I simply added some time. I made this section a bit longer so that we have some time to experiment with the sound and make it a little bit more interesting. So far, we've only done this tiny little mini hook, and I want to build upon that and develop it into something more interesting and something that might actually make the track stand out a little bit more and make people remember it instead of just being a nice kind of groove. So let's see. Let's build on this pink sound. Since I'm going to be basing my work on that, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate the track. That way I can experiment and change the sound, and I can always go back to where it was before. That being said, I must remember to delete the clips on the timeline so I don't get things doubled. And let's just fool around a bit and see what happens. I'm going to use the same synthesizer. It's going to be a subtractive synthesizer, a polysynth with, right now it's a sawtooth waveform going through a bandpass filter to give it this special character without having too much bass information or too much high frequencies. You might not even be able to see this because of my screen, but anyways, if I hold this together, you'll see more. Okay, so here's the filter section. I've chosen a very narrow bandpass filter to make the sound stand out. Let's play a few notes. Okay, so what are we gonna do with this? We're gonna play back, and I'm gonna just press a few buttons and tweak the sound a little bit. Okay, I kind of like that approach to this. Let's see what kind of knobs we need to twist. Let's bring in an LFO. Okay, this is an old LFO that I was actually turned off in the end. I'm going to reuse this because it's not assigned to anything. It's free for me to use. And here's something that I like to use. So I'm going to put the speed of the LFO to 16th note. Assign it to the cutoff. Get a very fast, blubby effect. And I'm going to tilt the curve. You get this kind of choppier instead of wobbly. Now this is a sound I've used a lot in my tracks before. Let's try this with unison. So unison will bring the sound apart into the stereo image. And we can add additional voices to the unison to create even more fatness and more, I suppose, voices. We can also wave shape the filter. there are different types of wave shaping. Let's see. Whoa. I'm gonna drag the speed of the LFO down. Okay, this has some potential. This is interesting. With some unison again. So it's a little bit silly to push around with a mouse and keyboard here. I usually would do this with a controller, but anyways, it's just trying to find the gaps where to put the sound into and trying to find the sequence in a very, very rough way, and then I will just program it in, because that's kind of how I do things. So I can actually just fool around, try recording some clips here. So what I did was I just pressed a few notes while recording into the clip launcher clip here, and now I have it as kind of like a sketchboard. Of course, it's not perfectly synced, so I'm gonna quantize this. Boom, done. We still actually have this pitch modulation going on. I'm just gonna bypass that for now. Actually, it didn't do much, I think. Anyways. I think it has to be just this a little bit longer note here. I'm gonna make the loop shorter so it happens more often. That way I can speed up my work. Okay, I'm gonna place it here. That works nicely with the rhythm. Okay, so that sounds pretty cool, but it's just a little bit too uplifting for my taste. It's not kind of sinister enough. I need to make it a little bit more evil. Not sure how, but let's try it. Okay, this is cool. I kind of like this. This is me just retuning one of the oscillators to +3 semitones, meaning that there's probably a music theory term in there that I'm not aware of. Anyways, adding a different oscillator and retuning that in a different tone gives me this kind of minor chordy sound, which I think I will explore a little bit more. Okay, this is definitely the way to go. I can't push the resonance too high because then that will affect the shaping too much and it will be too distorted. Maybe I'll fool around with that when doing like fills and building it into the next section. But this is kind of my basic tonality and the basic sound. It's got enough tonal information in it to be musical and tonal, but still it's very dirty and very noisy, which I also like. And also it's got some unison, so it's a bit detuned and it's stereo. It fits nicely into the stereo image. And of course, I've got no reverb, no delay on this thing. It could do well with some reverb, I guess. Not too much though. I kind of like the challenge of keeping it dry to work with the tonality and the timbre of the sound instead of just throwing a reverb or a delay on it and that fills out any gaps. I'll try to keep it as dry as I can. Now this is its own sound and it deserves its own name. I'm going to call this the tonal stab friend, and this is definitely a purple sound. This clip here I can remove, and this is the clip I'm gonna go for. Tonal stab 1, tonal stab loop 1. So does it come straight into the track already from bar 1? No, it's probably gonna start here at 9. Yeah, this is good. This is good. Okay, so I'm going to keep my first clip here. I'm going to keep that intact and not fool around with it anymore. I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate the clip. And now I have a copy that I can do whatever I want with without worrying too much. I'm going to go ahead and select this and double the content. That way I get a longer clip, which is easier to work with in the timeline. Okay, so let's take the first clip here, which is a way shorter loop. I'm going to place that in the timeline. Okay, you see that? You see how tiny that is? That's a tiny little clip. Okay, so that's, if I need to, I can't hardly select it, you know, and if I need to move it, it's kind of hard to grab, and, you know, placement is weird. So that's why I prefer longer clips. I just double the content a few times and have a longer, it's a bigger chunk to work with. It's a bigger workpiece, if you will. I can grab it easier and just move it around easier. Just gonna duplicate it like that. And there's a small difference to why I would do that, one or the other, instead of dragging it out or duplicating it. Anyways. I like how this brings a lot more atmosphere to the track. So this was a track that I duplicated from before, so I already have all the different modulators and things that I've set up, and the good old macro that I have from before is still there. So I don't have to touch the frequency knob. So if I start down here and then slowly build, I think that's good. I'm going to open up the automation lane. It's already where I need it to be, because this is the last knob that I moved. It's already the automation lane that is available to me. So I'm going to double click here to create a point, and you see that this is now at minus 92%. It's all the way down here. That might be too far down. Zoom in a bit, bring that up to, okay, this is what I'm going to work with now. And I want to have a slow, steady build up for this one. I don't want to have a too straight line. I want to go a little bit more unpredictable. So under normal circumstances, I would probably drag this out a little bit longer before going into the next discrete section of the track. But for this demonstration, I'm going to keep it at this length, and we're going to work on transition. So in my mind, going from this transition, let's start from here. So the cut is a little bit too drastic. There's no kind of like logical bridge between the two. So that's what we're going to do now.